Hey, it's Rob Lumberg here. Welcome to conversation number 68. Let's go back to December 20th, 2022. I'm a bit nervous. I'm about to jump online with LA based producer Jamee Ranta and CEO of Artifact Content, whom not only broke down the barriers for female creatives in the film, music, and television industries, but has built up a legendary resume that has led to multiple award nominations and wins. Working with the likes of Justin Bieber, Cardi B, Halsey, Nicki Minaj, The Weeknd, DJ Khaled, and a laundry list of more top tier talent, Jamie has produced an ecosystem of well known content spanning from television, documentaries, web series, short films, and feature length films, affirming her legacy in the industry. We discuss her journey, the challenges she faced attempting to break in, visual language, and how she gives back to the community she so values. So please enjoy this backlogged conversation. With gratitude, your host, RL. Recording in progress. Well, Jamie, thank you for joining me on Uncontaminated Sound. Like I said, post pre-recording, I kind of I've taken a hiatus, so maybe a little bit rusty viewers and listeners, but back at it again, and honored to have you on Uncontaminated.
I'm so honored and happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And I don't know where. I guess let's start with the beginning. Like, did you always want to be in film production and production in the creative business, or did you just like how did the journey begin, I guess, to kind of start things off?
I did not seek this initially. I wanted to be a physicist.
No.
And I wanted to eventually be an astronaut. So I wanted to join the Air Force and focus on pilot's license and do that whole trajectory. Didn't work out. I'm not physically that fit. And at the time, I didn't have good eyesight. So there were like a lot of physical limitations. And I really just had to sit in college and be like, what do I want to do with my life? And I happened to be sitting next to this guy. His name's Doug, by the way. Who was a film student, and I was having like an existential crisis, career crisis. And I was like, what do you do? And he was like, I'm a film major. And I was like, that's like a thing. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do that. And immediately switched my career path. I lost the scholarship and ended up switching to Full Sail University, which was lovely, but very, very expensive private university at the time. And here I am. I'm a filmmaker.
I'm kind of on like similar path. Like obviously, like I have a criminal justice degree, and I was looking into forensic science, and I was fascinated with forensics. Just the process and techniques of documenting just crime scenes, fascinating into science. I love science myself, and and then I at the time I went to school in Miami, and I also looked at Full Sail for like I was like thinking music production, and then that didn't kind of come to anything. I graduated with a CJ degree, went up back to Boston where I'm from, and I started working in a private security field in a high-end hotel, and then want to do something creative. Like, my mother was an artist and has always been an artist, and I just like I needed to do something creative. So they went into graphic web design certificate, and then a couple years in tech, and picked up and moved to Brooklyn and found the camera, and I fell in love with visual narratives and stills and culture, and that's kind of my story. I find it kind of interesting how if you're creative, you find a way into that path somehow.
Yeah, totally.
So first of all, where did you grow up, and was like creativity encouraged, or were you just really at the time kind of more focused on a scientific track, and then you just like film school, boom? Or
No, I would say the one beautiful thing about I grew up in Dayton, Ohio,
Yeah.
and Dayton is a small city in south of Ohio, and it's like I grew up more towards the inner city area. Um, you know, it was like a lower income family home. But I will say one thing that was really beautiful about my city and my parents actually is creativity was always encouraged.
Mm.
There was never a question of limitations on what you can put your mind to, even though there were many physical, financial, education, access to education type of limitations in my environment. Even the teachers would be like, I got a chance to go to this school called Cleveland Elementary School for the Arts.
Mm.
So I guess my mom put in some application or whatever. And it's a public school, but it has an arts program and an arts focus. And I was very much interested in science from an artistic, creative perspective. So, my degree would have been in quantum physics, quantum mechanics,
Mm.
which is kind of out of the box thinking, anyways. So now it's more mainstream, but then it was like, very like taboo.
Mm.
And so and then in high school, I went to, we ended up getting into like a kind of like a suburban type, almost suburban type school, and the teachers were very much always pushing education. So the one beautiful thing about, even though I went to a public school, inner city school, the one thing I honor about my city is Dayton breeds a lot of creativity. Dayton's always kind of been that way for a city, and they're very, um, even the public school system, with all of their flaws,
Mm.
because they're not perfect, I do think that they do a very good job trying to teach the kids to be creative. And it's even more so now. I went back and visited my high school like the beginning of this year.
Oh, cool.
And they're a STEM school now, which I'm obsessed. I love it. But I really think the way that they integrate the different departments together,
Mm.
they've got their design team that works with their wood shop team and their music team. In their wood shop team, they make electric guitars, and then they work with the music department and they create a song together. So they're constantly um, crossing the different departments and cross collaboration. And I think that is a great way to think more holistically instead of just focused path.
Mm.
Um, and my schools have always kind of been that way. I'm
Now,
proud of them.
now, where'd you go to? So when you decided to like go to film school, where did you attend? Um,
I went to Wright State University at first,
mm.
which is in Dayton,
Okay.
and then I transferred to Full Sail
Okay.
in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, I was like, was it initially LA, or I only knew them in Florida. I think
Yeah.
that's the only campus, right? But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think that there's a LA Film School that's like a branch, or, Full Sail might be Umbrella Corporation or however it works. But yes, it was in Orlando, Florida. I moved to Miami for a few months. That was not my vibe.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and then I moved to Los Angeles
Oh.
with a hope and a dream, and
Now,
ate Del Taco for the first year every day, 39-cent tacos.
yeah. Uh, so, so I guess when you finished film school, did you already know you kind of just want to be more producer, or did you want to be more a director as well, or
No, I was a cinematographer.
cool, cool.
I started my career as a cinematographer. So we do like small, low budget music videos here and there. And then uh, I did, DIT work, first AC work. And one day somebody was like recommended me as a producer, which I thought was a mistake. But I needed the money. And I was like, well, I mean, how hard can it be, right?
Hmm.
So it was tricky, but I did a decent enough job, and I just built my career off word of mouth.
Cool.
Yeah,
Now,
I didn't
like,
do the typical producer. I have a business degree. You know, my mom and dad's helping me fund a production company
yeah,
or
yeah.
startup or whatever the situation might be. Mine was you want to be a cinematographer, somehow turn into this, and here we are. Really, I
Well,
just wanted to be astronaut.
yeah, yeah. Well, um, I
High goals.
well, I guess, well, you've kind of still competed in a like a industry that's basically like probability of going to space is about the same of succeeding. So, you kind of accomplished similar feats.
Not bad for a B plan. It's not
Yeah,
bad.
exactly, exactly. So how hard was it like that first year when you took the leap to Orlando, to LA? I know so many people that and some family included have moved out there, lived in a van for a while, tried to be an actor, et cetera, and then like had to move on because it like how did you like how was that feeling of just first getting into LA and then like were you like did you already have contacts there or you're like
No.
now what? Like I'm in LA, what am I gonna do now?
I would say I always led with intention. A lot of people move to Los Angeles and they're like, I want to be famous. I want to
Yeah.
make money. I want to do that. Those are things that come along with it. But like for me, my purpose was I want to tell stories
Mm,
that will influence the masses. It's not about me. And I think that's why I kind of really enjoy the producer role because like it's not as glorified.
mm,
And I can still walk down the street, nobody knows who I am, like it's great. I love
yeah.
that. But I do also really enjoy being able to see how a lot of the work has impacted um, a lot of people in many different ways of all ages, genders, races, creed, whatever. It's like something that can combat, that can unite us. And I think that, from a human standpoint, everyone has feelings. Everyone has, feelings of hope, joy, love. Everyone has feelings of sorrow, loss, and pain. And there's a lot of stigmas on expressing those things. So when you get a chance to create art that somebody can, connect with or align with and kind of pull on those different emotions or heartstrings, it's a very powerful tool, and that's why I've always kind of wanted to get into filmmaking.
Mm,
It's the same purpose and intention I had in my goals for being an astronaut. I want to, I want to be a part of something bigger than myself. It's
mm,
not about me. It's
yeah.
about what can I leave for others, what can unite us. Space is very unifying because it doesn't matter, what country you come from, what conflict there are. When you're up there, everyone's human.
Mm,
So I think that the thing that I did that was a little bit different than a typical move to LA and try and figure it out is my intentions were very structured, very focused. And that kind of fueled me because, you can go through a day and be like, oh, I'm going to do this and this and this, and these are my goals, and I'm going to plan this out. But that's not how life works. There's a lot of steps of things that like I do that are monotonous, that are not fun, that are not
mm,
on set. Like sitting with my accounting team and going through each quarter and making sure everyone's being paid right and doing like there's so much that's involved in being a business owner and in being a filmmaker that's not, glorified or exciting,
mm,
but it's the purpose and the why that gets me through those, and that gets me the strength to have self-discipline.
mm.
Whereas like if my purpose was also I can be famous, I'd have been moved out of LA like years ago. That
Yeah,
was the
that's
case.
true.
That's not happening. Or if it was money driven,
Yeah.
oh, the amount of money I've lost and made and all in between, and
Mm,
that's not why I do what I do. So it all comes down to purpose for me.
yeah. Now let's talk influences, I guess. Like it's who were you visually influenced by in film school and when you were starting with the cinematography work, like who were your main influences like visually, I guess.
Okay. So I really enjoyed Quentin Tarantino.
Mm,
I liked his style of filmmaking. I enjoyed a lot of the darker movies. Um, I tend to like to live lightly, and I love my peace. But when it comes to the type of content, I like to make things that are a little bit more darker,
Yeah.
a little bit more controversial. And I'm kind of drawn to that in my art form because it kind of like pulls something out of, I don't want to live there, but I do want to explore it, experience it, understand it, and then move on and be grateful for all the good things in life. So some of my favorite cinematographers are Robert Richardson,
Mm.
um, Matthew Libatique, huge fan of Matthew Libatique's work. Um, what's that guy's name? Conrad Hall. Conrad Hall.
I think so.
I really enjoy uh, a lot of older films from the 40s and 50s
Mm.
in terms of lighting and shadow.
Oh yes, yeah, I
Not,
love Deep Shadow.
not
Oh,
not necessarily in terms of acting or subject matter, but I love to watch, older films and learn about light and shadow. I'm really drawn and composition and framing.
mm.
Really drawn to Hitchcock films for
Oh yeah,
that.
precisely.
Um,
Yeah.
every once in a while, I'll watch an old film. Um, a lot of things that are practical and shot on location. Things that are like Revolutionary Road, great film.
Mm.
Um, yeah, just I'm drawn to the darker. I'm really into some TV shows lately too. So
I've
I
been
get my inspiration from everywhere. I get
yeah,
my
yeah.
inspiration from like paintings when I went to visit, you know, the Vatican. I was like, oh, this is so inspiring for this project. And, I really pull from life experience, paintings. I just kind
Every
of told you everything.
everything, yeah.
Focusing, I'm just focusing on the film side,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
most of my work is inspired by everything outside of movies.
Now, just went blank. Sorry. Like,
It's okay.
I was going smooth for a bit.
There's no judgment, no judgment.
I no, I could go deep. I love visual language, and I like my stuff has mostly been like super like black and white, but I love black and white and and deep shadows and I have a whole list I made during the pandemic of just cinematographers I was studying on Criterion channel, just like,
Mhm.
oh, I love the framing. I love the, uh, just everything, so, but I've noticed, it's all like in a male dominated industry for so long. How tough was it to break in, and succeed and become a CEO like as you are now?
It was extremely challenging in the
Yeah.
beginning. Nowadays, things are not as difficult or oppressive, I guess is the word. But it was extra challenging for
Mm,
me because I was very much influenced by my dad and my brother. So I had a very masculine household, and I
mm,
have and carry a lot of masculine energy unknowingly. It's just how I am. And so when I came out to Los Angeles initially, it was, oh, we don't want to hire you, you're weak. And oh, well, she can't do that. And I would be like, what? Because I've never been told I can't do something in my
yeah.
household, in my environment growing up. And I just was like, well, what is it about me is causing me to be limited,
Mm,
and having that experience of not being able to join the Air Force, I was like, well, I must be physically horribly weak, and I just didn't realize how truly weak I am. And so I was like, it kind of like made me feel like maybe I can't carry these camera cases around like I would just lug camera cases and Alexa's on my shoulder, crazy long massive zoom lenses. I'd carry it around like it was nothing.
mm.
Now I'm like, oh, it's so heavy. But I couldn't understand why I had all these limitations, or like people would do cat calls or be like, oh, you're too pretty,
Mm,
and I'd be like, what? No one's ever complimented on how I look to get a career,
mm.
like.
Yeah.
And growing up, my father and my brothers never commented on my looks, only on my intelligence and my abilities.
Yeah.
So it was really, there was an extra layer of confusion when I first moved to Los Angeles because there was like a lack of awareness. I
Mm.
had no idea why I was being singled out. It's like, oh, because you're a girl. Oh, okay, well, I can work with that. I had no idea. I was like, there must be something innately wrong with my core character that's causing these
Uh,
limitations. And I took it very personal for many years.
wow. Yeah.
Um,
Now,
until I realized, oh, okay. You're just it's just that.
it's like an old way of thinking with those guys, particularly I assume like more union guys, the old Teamsters and stuff like that. But
They're great. They're great
yeah,
now. It was
yeah.
just like a curve lesson of learning. And I think that, through awareness, even, myself, like if there's something I'm not educated on, or, everyone has certain stereotypes. I think that even great people might have passed certain stereotypes on me because I was young, female. They'd always think I was in front of the camera, not behind the camera. And they wouldn't,
Mm,
trust me with certain intellectual information or capabilities behind camera because they were like, oh, she's just talent, blah, blah. Which also, I love talent. No judgment against talent. They're so incredibly talented and called talent for that reason.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I just did an Italian thing with my hand.
Hey,
Um,
it's a
um,
meatball.
but like I feel very, very much like once there was like a awareness brought to it, and once I understood what that experience was for me, instead of assuming it was like a me problem, we were all able to kind of make changes. And a lot of uh, some people weren't, but a lot of people were willing to change and adapt
Mm,
and understand. Once there's understanding and awareness, you can come together and have mutual respect.
mm,
And that's, again, going back to the beginning, that's my purpose in wanting to be a filmmaker anyways.
mm.
So if I'm doing that, through my projects and my art, why not do that, behind the scenes with my crew members, education and communication and understanding. So
Now, were you strictly with like film, or did you jump on to like music video stuff? Like, how did you get into the music work initially, and then progress from there?
um so in the when I was doing when I was primarily focused on camera work, it was indie features.
Mm,
And I wasn't union, so it was indie features and music videos, because commercials and TV shows and movies, studio budgets were all union. So and then I got like 1, 2 opportunities to shoot as cinematographer on small, tiny, like productions. And I think that short, quick, artistic turnaround of a music video was very appetizing to me, in the sense of it gave me uh, an opportunity to learn or try new things, and new creative pathways. So, you know, I learned a lot through those experiences while they're on the camera side, or, very quickly moved into producing after that.
mm,
Um, and all the different elements that are needed in order to create a production. And the beautiful thing about it is I was able to work with, you know, so many things that I probably wouldn't have been able to work with directly, as if I was on a movie or whatever. I work with, remote control, cameras, robotic arms. I've worked with pyrotechnics,
cool.
explosives. I've worked with underwater cinematography, high frame rates with a phantom camera, all sorts of like, diverse tools that I got to really learn backward, forward, inside out, the technical side, just because I'm interested, but also from a producer's standpoint, how much
Mm,
they cost, what it takes, how many technicians they need, why they need them, how much time it takes to set up the camera, why that's important to the whole. I'm a very holistic person in the way I communicate, and the way I think, and the way I connect to the world.
mm, mm,
So it's like being able to be a producer allows me to support and respect all the different departments. And I'm curious about each and every one of them. Obviously more curious about camera and side of things just because it's my background, but I am curious about them and how they all connect to create something special.
Yeah.
It's never one, it's not the director that made the movie. I
Mm.
don't care what people say, it's not. It's the
Now,
entire team that made the movie, you know?
now, can you please elaborate what the role of a producer and executive producer? Because my assumptions or naivety has been like, oh, they're just the money people. I don't know what they do. Like I
Sometimes.
see, yeah, I see some in the credits. I see some big names. I'm like, they just definitely just were the money people. But can you kind of shed some light on the process of being a producer, your role, like, and what it takes to kind of fill that role and the necessity for it in the filmmaking process, I guess.
Yeah, of course. So, executive producers are typically ones that bring in the funding or provide the funding,
Mm,
but that's not the only thing that they do. A lot of times they'll read many scripts, they'll help develop scripts, they'll find something that is relevant to being made today. They're very social with like what's current, what's relevant, what other studios are putting out there, just that they're not like putting out a movie just like another studio. Like there's a lot of layers to it. I mean, sometimes you just give us some money and we'll give you an EP credit. But that is not how it always works. And there's
mm,
always an executive producer on the project
mm,
who is doing all the legwork, who is sourcing and finding the scripts, who's finding the material, who's doing all this extensive research.
mm,
Because once you get a script, if it's a historical piece, is it historically accurate? You have to do all this crazy historical research. You talk to people. If it's based on a true story, you talk to the families. There's a lot of legwork that goes into it. Um, Executive producers for music videos and commercials is you're out there, you're making sure that you're submitting bids, you're talking to clients, you're
mm,
helping the agencies shape and develop the creative, and putting a lot of times putting the creative together uh, on behalf of the company, and then you hire a director. Like there's a lot of like um, different ways to go about it, and there's a
mm,
lot of different elements that go into producing. I like to look at producing as, if you have an idea, which sometimes comes from the producers, sometimes it comes from the writer, sometimes it comes from the director, sometimes it comes from the musical artist or label, sometimes it comes from the ad agency, sometimes it's direct from client, from the brand management side.
mm,
There's so many different ways to do it, but the producer takes action
mm,
always. So whatever the need, they figure out what is needed to make that concept come into fruition,
mm,
and then they put it into action,
mm,
into production. So you have your ideation phase um, for commercials, music videos, and the ad world. Or if it's for television and movies, you have the development stage. It's called the same thing. It's called development or ideation. Then you move into pre-production. Okay,
mm,
how are we going to make this work? It's like a trial. Like if it were a science experiment, you have your thesis, your hypothesis.
mhm,
Then you're going to go into a thesis, like getting all the details and doing all the research that's already in existence. Then you're going to go into production, which is actual shoot days. We're shooting it. We're
mm,
making the movie.
yeah.
Or now we're in the lab. We're actually we're testing. It's the testing phase.
Mm,
And then you do post production, finishing, editorial, that whole process. The producer is going to oversee all of that.
wow.
And to leveling degrees, some producers are just like, yep, looks great, thanks. Some producers are very, involved
Mm,
creatively. Some producers are like, I don't care about the creative, just make sure we're on budget. And they're just making sure we're on budget. And it really kind of like you can take on it's the person, their personality, how they communicate, what their strengths and weaknesses are, what their roles are, and they build an entire production team to fill
mm,
whatever is the difference. Like a line producer is typically somebody who does the budget, makes sure on budget, hires a production manager hires all the crew, gets approved by line producer and then by producer and director, you know, making sure everyone's time cards are processed all the way to like making sure that you've paid your taxes at the end of the year. You know, all literally everything, anything, everything, everywhere. It's like
Yeah.
that movie. Everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
That's producing.
Too bad we can jump into another dimension, you know. uh that was such a great movie now too.
Love it. Love the
um
Daniels.
oh yeah, it was so
They come from
cool.
a music video background. I've
Oh, I
always
could
wanted to
tell the
work with
style
them.
was. Yeah. Oh, what's that?
I said I've always wanted to work with them and never got the opportunity.
I'm sure you will though. I'm sure.
I feel like it'd be constant jokes back and forth.
um I guess throughout this journey, did you find mentorship too, like that led you to, really helped you along the lines? Did you have a specific mentor in the industry you found? Or
I didn't really have a mentor, and
mm,
so that's why I'm going above and beyond to try to create this platform for production to have mentorships.
mm,
And I've taken a lot of people under my wing over the last decade to really try to teach and learn and educate, and then they can choose and take away what I gave them, what they like, what they don't like. They're like, oh, I'll do this like Jamie, or I'm not doing that like Jamie. However they want to, interpret my knowledge. I think that a mentorship is so valuable, and it's
yeah.
something that I didn't have,
Mm,
and I really wish that I had. Um, and it was really difficult for me to find people that I could talk to or that I could, um, confide in. As soon as I started getting, consistent work, all of a sudden I became competition.
mm,
And I don't align with that type of mentality. And it's not one of my core values or business values. I'm not a
mm,
very competitive with others. I'm competitive with myself. And so that was, a difficult thing to deal with. So I want to create, along with Filmmakers Academy, an experience where people have a safe space to go, hey, I'm down to do this project, and not feel like threatened by somebody who's going to take that job, or, oh, you've told me this information about this job. Now let me make sure that I utilize it to my advantage, or whatever. I
yeah.
don't
Yeah.
like that culture, and I'm trying to shift producing and production culture to a more collective, collaborative experience.
Mm.
And I think that starts with strong, healthy membership mentorships.
Have you set up that program, and does it have a specific name, website or?
Yeah, it's with Filmmakers Academy,
Mhm.
and they do a lot of. They have a handful of mentors. They have a first AC mentor, a colorist mentor, cinematographer mentor,
Mm,
the producer, the director, a couple other, roles. And basically, we just kind of talk about different courses. We give educational things, and then you can purchase one-on-one classes with us where you can ask any questions you have. It was really cool. I did one with some filmmakers in Australia. They just started a production company,
oh, cool.
and they're like having some, pretty typical issues when you first start a production company, um, in terms of like they're like already wanted to be here and they were there. So it was really cool to like give them advice, like, you're right where you're supposed to be. You're doing your best and you're doing a great job. Stay consistent, stay the course.
Mm,
Don't feel like we're supposed to be here already, because that's not how life works. That's not how business works.
yeah. Yeah.
So it was really cool to also, they had some really interesting things to say that was inspiring for me as well. So I felt like it was a great experience, and I hope they feel the same.
Yeah. It's amazing. I'm also a big proponent of collaborating and sharing information. And what I've found in the photographic world and art world here, particularly in New York, it's it's siloed, and like nobody kind of wants to share. And it's like I've in Boston I was in more tech, so I'm so used to that collaborative design process.
Mm-hmm.
And then here when when I get a bit of attention, people kind of disappear to stop talking. It's like, come on. I feel like I'm not about that.
I
I found it weird, because it was
yeah.
like, why? I think everybody should be helping
All of a
others
sudden you're
progress
not
and
invited
progress
to
the field.
the party. Yeah. The
Yeah.
holiday
So
party, and you're like, well, okay.
yeah. So it's like, I'm kind of like on an island and still kind of seeking collaboration and stuff. And but so yeah, I'm a big proponent of that and into just having this, you know, diversity of ideas and opinions from different fields. To I think you touched upon it before, just having like in your high school, the STEM aspect of having the different departments communicating with each other and just bouncing different concepts back. I think it's always helpful when you have that diversity in different perspectives
Hmm.
to try to figure out a problem, or put together a story.
Yeah.
And in your case, but it's yeah, I think I don't know where I was going. I was again just lost my train of thought, but
That's okay.
just a big proponent of sharing information. And I think if when you're at a point and a level where you can do so, spread that word to younger generations too. Um, have you seen an influx of like interest in younger female like uh uh interest in I guess girls just in film and like directing and storytelling and cinema, controlling the camera? Have you seen that shift?
Massive
Like, cool.
shift. Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, oh, it's still a thing. I'm like, but it's so much better. And progress is key.
Mm,
Keep educating and keep teaching, keep progressing and moving forward. There's been a lot of growth, a lot of more opportunity for women in the film industry in whatever role.
yeah.
Um, I've hired female steady cam operators, cinematographers, first ACs, DITs, second ACs. Um, Gaffers, love that.
Mm,
Key grips, like colorists, editors, and I'm genuinely inspired and happy to hear that it's moved in a more inclusive area for women.
mm,
There is always room for improvement. There's always room for growth, um, and not just for women, for diversity in general. Different ethnic backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds. These stories, everyone's the more diverse we are with our stories and our art, I think the more uh, human you can the more you relate to others outside of the cultural differences or religious differences or
mm,
age differences, whatever. You kind of see the human element and the through line of all art throughout existence.
mm.
And I think that's the beauty in it. And so I hope to continue to see growth and collectiveness in the art community, especially in a time where the world is at extreme division,
Mm,
where the world has regressed. I think as an art community, it's our duty and responsibility to progress.
mm,
You know,
yeah.
um,
Um, again, I'm zonked out. I'm like
okay.
jumping ahead of myself. I'm like, is there any uh director or writer or producer you're really into now, a female or diverse, who's creating some really cool stuff you're really into, I guess, right now?
Um, I need to think on that. There is, um, and I'm blanking, so don't hold me on this, but it is a female. She was an actress and now she is a director. Um, and she has a female cinematographer. I'm blanking, so I can't answer that question. Skip.
Uh, yeah,
I'll
no,
text. I'll send it to you in an email once it comes to me.
yeah, no
Um,
worries.
but I've been really impressed by their collaboration and their just level of light and shadow and storytelling that
Mm.
I've seen from them in their duo. And I think that's what really stuck out. I was like, wow, that's a really beautiful scene. I really like how that was shot. I really like how that was framed specific for those characters to tell. That makes sense why it would be framed like that. It was just really inspiring, and I'm going to find what it is, but I don't have the answer to that.
Oh, no worries whatsoever. I'm always like, I know, I'm terrible at references and are like, um, but I'm like, I always have influences, of course, but then I'm terrible at recalling them to somebody. If somebody asks, I'm like, oh, I have to get
Mhm.
back to you on that. But I guess I guess why is the visual medium so powerful in telling, you know, different perspectives comparatively to any other mediums? I mean, I guess I can answer my own question, but I would love that perspective of why this chosen medium is so powerful to engage in, I guess,
You
time
mean
honored.
specifically like film or visual arts altogether, like paintings
Well,
and
I guess more so in the visual film and live action,
film, live action?
because we're so just inundated right now with just visuals. Um, I guess what
For
makes
me,
yeah, yeah. So
sorry to interrupt. For me, I would say that the reason why the uh, live action film or you know the art of filmmaking is so effective is because you're combining every type of art form
mm,
into one. You have, you know, painting, sound, dance, music. You have architecture, set builds, creating worlds. You have visual elements, also audio cues, and
mm,
and you're really connecting to an audience, and each person has their own way of learning and gathering information. You can be a visual learner, you can be an audio learner, you can be a visual audio learner, you can be a textile person. And even if you can't touch cinema, you can see the textures and the details, and it
mm,
really can connect to people who are textile. They're like, oh, I wonder what that fabric's like, or
yeah.
oh, that fabric texture looks great, that looks rich, that color palette, oh, the shadows. There's so much information
Mm,
that is working together in one art piece, that dance, motion, choreography, um, literal paintings.
mm,
I get a lot, like I was telling you earlier, I get a lot of my inspiration from actual paintings and artwork in museums, or photography.
mm,
And we'll incorporate that. We'll hire and commission painters to create specific pieces in our set design. So it's like there's enough, no matter what type of learner you are, there's enough information for you to pick up at least subconsciously, and most of the time consciously.
mm.
They're consciously aware of a lot of things, and I think that's why it's so relatable. It's not single dimension. It's not one dimensional. It's
Yeah.
a multi-dimensional high art form. It's the highest art form you can achieve, I believe.
Mm.
Kind of rhymed.
Now you get into
Wow.
poetry.
I am
Uh,
not I am not good at poetry.
um, uh, I agree. As a visual artist too, I paint, and, you know, I it's just so happened the camera found me and I was got traction on camera work, but I'm a visual guy. I paint, this is kind of my
Mhm.
studio. So I have paintings here. I got like so many shows coming up, like, I have pieces, diverse pieces too, like my object studies. I have, you know, you know, 2D images, but I love more immersive experiences to evoke emotion.
Yes.
And that's what film can do on a mass scale, where say, you can create a piece, say in LA or wherever, and share it with the world. Either now you don't even have to, you don't need a theater. You just go on, upload it online. Boom, the world can see your piece, your story, the narrative you want to tell. And I don't know, I love film. I just as to evoke emotion, to evoke a human experience that, say, just a painting or a 2D image can't. I like you said, there's multiple layers of depth, and that you create the mood, you create the setting, the scene, you see the pain and agony on an actor's face in a drama, and the struggle of, say, a family, a working class family overseas or something. Whatever that director, that whatever that story is telling, you can feel it sitting in a theater, or now, say, in front of a screen, a computer screen, but or TV. But I like the theater still. I still love the theater. I think that's advantage where, as a lover of art too, I love seeing pieces in person. So I know Google had their project with uploading diverse uh pieces from globally, but it's not the same as going, say, to the Louvre and actually experiencing, say, the Mona Lisa, which is it's a tiny piece. But you know, it's not the same. But with film, you can have that physical immersion right there. Um,
Mm.
I don't
And
think I had a point to that, but
I want to say something about that because a lot of people I've heard, or a lot of filmmakers say, or even viewers, they'll
mm,
say, I like to make films. It's a great way to escape. Or I'll hear people say, I like to watch movies because it's a great way to escape. And that is not at all why I create art. I
mm,
create art for learning and growth. I
yeah,
create art for experience. I create art for telling a message, telling a story. And then you can interpret that in any way you want. So artist is here to ask the question, is not here to answer the question, but to ask the question.
mm,
Here's a situation. What do you think about it? It's an educational experience for me. Every time I go to the movies, every time I watch a new film, I'll watch it and then I'll pick up on the cues. I wonder, like, oh, what's this trying to tell me? What does this mean to me? How can I relate to it? How can I pull from my history, personal experiences, and connect with it? That is the purpose of making movies,
mm,
not to escape. I don't like the idea of fantasy or escapism in that sense. I think that if you're creating a fantasy world, let's create it in a way that has a message, a purpose that you can connect to, that you can learn from and grow from, or that can inspire you in some way. A lot of times, um, what's that phrase where it's like art, uh, reality mimics art, or art mimics, there's
uh,
some sort of,
art
oh,
imitates life or something like
art
that.
imitates life.
Yeah, yeah.
Art imitates life. There's so many science discoveries that have been inspired by films,
Mm,
that are real today, that were inspired by films. So much scientific research and exploration into the unknown, into the universe, that were inspired by early films.
mm,
It's the question, and then the people who observe, they get to proceed with what that means to them.
yeah, yeah. Now, commercially, how do you apply that concept in a commercial side of things? Because as a creative, it's like always like initially I was like, oh, I'm an artist, I don't want, but obviously in this day and age, we need to make money. So how do you apply that? What you know the the creative side that really I want to communicate a message to, I have to communicate this person's message, or the company's message.
Mm.
But how do you do that into a unique still form, I guess, without, like, I know people or artists like, I don't want to sell my soul, but in reality, yeah, we gotta still make money, and live. And so I'm curious,
Leonardo
is
da
there a
Vinci,
difference between like your super creative projects and commercial stuff?
yes, there is.
Hmm.
It's the separation of is this my art or someone else's art?
Yeah.
Leonardo da Vinci was contracted by the church to create, art.
Yeah.
That's not his art. That's not the art he wanted to create. That was the art he was contracted to create. That was
Mm.
the art he was paid to do. To be an artist is just like being a plumber or
Yeah.
a woodworker or a electrician or a, like it is a service
Mm.
just like anything else. And when you're commissioned to create art, you're supposed to give your best ability, your critical thinking, your knowledge of textures and layers and light. As a producer and as a filmmaker, I am hired by clients on the commercial world to interpret and create a campaign that is going to benefit their product.
Mm.
And that's how I think of it. I don't think, oh, they don't understand that I'm the artist. They don't know how. Of course they don't. That's why
Yeah.
I hired you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you're like, well, I want to do it this way. Okay. But at the end of the day, are you going to put that commercial, like not everything is like a representation of you as an artist. Some of it's a representation of a story or an experience of someone else. So when you can understand and separate the self as an artist from the craft as an artist, I
Mm.
think that helps kind of balance it out a bit.
But no matter what project, do you still have some continuity in visual style and elements?
Yes.
Yeah, across the board, which I kind of noticed visually, like color wise. I like your color palette, and I recognize it throughout your kind of reels and your personal site. Um, so yeah, I guess, yeah. So you do, I guess, intentionally have this visual language in your mind that you kind of apply to different projects, or or
I think
is
that there are some through lines, but I don't typically favor one style for the other. I'll hire a cinematographer
hmm,
that, or the director might have a specific niche style.
yeah,
I've worked primarily with, more recently, with a smaller handful of directors, and they kind of have similar styles. So that's kind of like where I've gone in the last few years. But I will
yeah,
say that if I were to project my preferred style, it would be the movie I made last year. It's dark.
hmm,
Um, there's a lot of range in exposure. There's a lot of warm skin tones. And I had this conversation with the artist of the
hmm,
movie, Halsey,
yeah,
when we were in the color process, very much like there was, different styles of coloring something. And it's very important to keep it looking like a painting, to
hmm,
keep it looking, like, one of my favorite paintings at the Dayton Art Institute is by I'm completely blanking. But a lot of I really tend to gravitate towards you know, the Renaissance era of lighting and shadow,
hmm,
and you know, like Rembrandt. One of my favorite artists is Rembrandt. I really like respect the way that he lights. And he uses light and shadow in all of his paintings. I'm just
hmm,
blown away by it, and I love the warm tones of the flesh and then the deep dark shadows, because that's what life feels like,
hmm,
you
hmm.
know?
Yeah. And that the title was, If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power,
Yeah.
correct? How was that?
Impressive title.
Oh,
For the
was that?
record, I choose love. I don't need power.
Yeah, yeah. There's too many people these
I
days that
prefer
want
not to
power.
have power. I'll take
Yeah.
love. Show me
Um,
status.
and was that received well too, audience wise, or I guess
Audience wise, we sold out on
cool.
opening night at the theater. It was internationally released at AMC theaters
Cool.
through IMAX, and it was sold out everywhere. There's like 13 different countries.
Wow.
It was temporary though. It didn't have a long run. It was like
Yeah.
three weekends, and I think maybe that was it, 3 weekends. But
And
super small.
was that your full first full feature independently as your own as a your own company, I guess? Or
Um,
did you do something like that before
it was
full
the
feature?
first, it was the biggest.
Yeah,
It wasn't the first. I've done a couple of independent films on the production side, but they weren't something that I was involved with creatively. And then I did a documentary style project that I saw through post up to a point.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So it was, and then I think there was they switched out the director and then they re-edited it. But I've done a few projects. I think that this one was the most profound and the most creatively involved,
Cool.
and my first to be internationally theatrically released in theaters.
Now, I forgot to kind of bring this kind of going a bit backwards in time frame, but uh, what made you decide to create artifact content and go out on your own, and how difficult was that from uh, how difficult was that process of starting your own company and building clients, et cetera, et cetera?
I have had my own company from day one.
Yeah,
As soon as I became a producer, I started my own company. It used to be called Jamie Ranta Productions, and then people would just subcontract me. So
yeah.
I have always worked for myself. Um, that's my biggest flaw and strength all in one. I cannot work for someone else without knowing that I have ownership and flexibility
Hmm.
uh, to work at my own process and at my own pace. And anytime someone tells me to clock in, clock out, it doesn't. It's not. I have a different process, and obviously it works, but it's not your typical process. And nowadays, like a lot of people can get on board with that, and they're like, as long as you do a great job, even major corporations are like, hey, clock in your hours, but as long as the work is done, we're happy. We want a
Hmm.
better work life balance um, post COVID. But I've always had my own company. I've had Artifacts since 2017,
Hmm.
and January of 2017. And I just started recently deciding to focus on branding Artifacts and giving it the attention and um, the love that it deserves, and rebranding. Before that, like I said, I had Jamie Ranta Productions. I was like, I'm gonna brand it as Artifact, and then I started Artifact, but focused on other brands and collaborations. And then I was like, you know what? This is my baby. I'm gonna nurture it and take care of it. And I'm genuinely excited. It's Artifact owns some intellectual property and has some projects in development for television, and I
Cool.
am absolutely thrilled. Also, continuing to work in commercials, music videos, and
Hmm.
high photo shoots as well.
And I've noticed you've been nominated for several awards and I think picked up a few awards too. But how does that feel? I've always kind of been like, I guess I, I've never been about awards, but I don't know. Like, does it feel like you don't do the work for awards, obviously,
No.
but is that just a like when you do get nominated, is that like exciting, or is it just like, okay, yeah, it was nominated, that's cool, but I'm focused at the work
Um,
at hand? I don't know. I'm probably phrasing it wrong or what I'm trying to want to say, but it's coming out all gibberish right now. But I guess, yeah, are awards meaningful, I guess, in the industry, or is it just like more of a, I don't know. I guess,
is the
uh,
question are what's my perspective? How do I feel when I receive awards?
I
Or
guess
what
so.
do I
Yeah,
think?
let's go with that. So I don't want to like, oh yeah, is the awards necessary? The hierarchy, just like like I guess, does it do anything? Does it build your a reputation? I guess, or is it just like, okay, I did quality? It was just recognition for doing quality work. We got to move on to the next thing, I guess.
For me, receiving awards doesn't hold. I'm gonna go ahead and give you an unpopular answer.
Hmm.
Receiving awards doesn't hold a high value in my experience.
Hmm.
And I'm, of course, grateful and honored that my peers have recognized my work. That is, I'm so grateful for that peer to peer recognition.
Hmm.
And to me, that's what it is. Thank you for recognizing that. But at the same time, um, there's this duality of, oh, now they're holding me to these expectations.
Yeah.
I don't like to be held to expectations from anyone but myself. So there's a little bit of pressure in a sense of like, okay, now there's these expectations. But at the same time, I just have to remind myself that, you know, I don't need to be held to any sort of high regard. I'm grateful and honored, but I'm also so excited and grateful and honored when I see other people, be nominated. It was such a pleasure. Last year, I was nominated for a Grammy Award for the
Hmm.
first time, and that felt really, you know, overwhelming and exciting. But again, I was still honored and grateful for the peer to peer recognition. This year, I'm even more excited because two other production companies that are colleagues of mine that are executive producers have been nominated this year. And I'm like, I get to go to the Grammys. I get to celebrate them. I don't have the expectations. I don't have
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
pressure. I don't have to do interviews. All I can do is be myself. And I hope that they win
Yeah.
and, get to support them and see them in their journey. And that's equally as important to me because also when I look at their artwork that they've been nominated for, it's inspiring. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm not the only producer out there doing this. There are so many other production companies, and there's enough work and good to go around. But it's also inspiring to see other people's ideas because it helps you um, just gather uh, and it's just another perspective.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I honor and appreciate that. So I think that award ceremonies are beautiful, but they're meant to be recognition, and they're meant to be um, an honor
Hmm.
and not a status of elitism, or at least that's how I view them.
Yeah.
Not everybody does. Uh, it's not. I'm not better because of my awards.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not better. I'm good at what I do because my art connects to others. And in doing so, I was able to be honored by my peers and get an award.
Hmm.
Having awards doesn't make me better. And I feel very strongly about that. It's just like someone recognized me, great, awesome. Keep doing the work.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
focus. Continue to make art that connects to people.
Hmm.
And some years I will, and some years I won't. And that's another thing as like an artist. And I know you didn't ask, but I think this is a very important topic to discuss is like
Hmm.
artist careers are roller coasters. You have your highs and you have your lows. You have your moments where you're going to be on top of the world and popping and everyone wants your attention and everyone wants to talk to you. And then you're going to have moments of plateaus and valleys, where you're like, okay, it's been a while. And you need to find your writer's block, as they say, and you need to find new inspiration. And those moments are equally as important and as valuable as the highs.
Hmm.
And if you look at your career path like that, and that your artwork and that what you're doing in that sense, there's a lot more longevity because
Hmm.
people tend to self destruct when things are not going high, 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 high.
Yeah. Yeah.
Attention, 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 and self sabotage and self destruction is like a big step backwards.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think I've kind of hit a wall myself the last couple of months, but I'm breaking through, different
Good.
ways of creating, if
And
it's
then
like,
that's part of the process. You're about
yeah.
to come up with some new texture or work with a new medium that you didn't before?
It's like throughout the pandemic, and when I moved up here in Beacon, New York, in like late 2020, it was super isolating. Everything was super shut down, so no interactions. I have a typewriter every day, just typing a page or two. Now I have like a manuscript like this thick of just monologue. It could just be a personal monologue. I just need a. I haven't broken the plane of putting myself on camera, or like that's what I need to do. Like I would love to like I used to do stand up like poetry, you know. I
Wow.
miss that. And I miss going up on stage and that aspect of being just raw expression, I do miss that. So I love writing and poetry, and it's a big proponent of freedom of speech and expression, and expressing. I don't like categories either. Like I don't want to. That's why I just say artist, because I'm like I'm not a photographer. I've met photographers, and I'm not a photographer because I'm definitely not in that group. So like I can be a fine art photographer if I want to, and like, but I'm not. I'm de- I'm just an artist. I just use the lens because that's what is interesting
That's
right
another
now.
medium.
But I have
Mhm.
the ability to paint and write, and so it's like I'm still discovering this because it's been. I again, I've had no real mentorship in this area. It was just like on a whim, and I guess destiny or universe gave me the camera in New York and art and stuff like that. But it's always nobody's really guided me whatsoever. So like, there's been those dark moments as well of like, do I go back to a corporate realm? I'm like, no, I remember working in the office and like being
Mhm.
a designer, and like, no, like not even being part of the comment. Like I used to have 8-hour meetings, and the design team was not involved in conversation. We're just sitting there 8 hours on our computers. Like, this
Mhm.
is a waste. Like, I'm making so much, but for what? Like, I need to do something more tactile. So, yeah, I'm starting to understand the ebbs and flows of the creative path, and
Mhm.
and finding that confidence in myself after so many hits. And it's just, yeah, it's just a crazy journey. I don't want to give up on that, and I don't think anybody should as a creative. But I feel like a lot of people are put down without the support, or like there's a lot of families like, what are you trying to do? Like, you should just work like, a steady job and stuff like that. But I guess I always like to kind of close out conversations like advice with for younger creatives, and
Mhm.
what would you suggest, any key pieces of advice for younger creators that didn't, so they could maybe kind of like seek, yeah, mentorship now. I think there's a lot more opportunities now for finding proper mentorship, and finding their path and openness to it than before. And any advice on to younger creators out there, um, that maybe you'd like to pass on to, uncontaminated, I guess.
Yeah. I would say my biggest piece of advice is ask yourself why you're doing this.
Mm,
Because when you have purpose, it gives you the strength for self-discipline, gives you the strength to keep going when things get difficult and when things are hard. And as long as your why is true to you, no one else's opinion matters.
mm, mm,
There are some people out there that make what most would consider mediocre art, and they do an incredible job at doing it, and they're successful,
mm,
and they don't have another job. And it's because they're doing what they love and they're putting it out there.
mm.
There's an audience for everyone. You're going to have people that don't like you, and that's just life. No, I don't know anyone who everybody likes. There's something about the way I speak, the way I look, the way I communicate that some people are just going to be annoyed with, and that's okay.
Mm.
They're going to be like, I don't like that girl, and that's fine. I'm not for everyone.
Yeah.
My art is not for everyone. But the beauty about that is there is someone out there
Mm.
that anyone and everyone can relate to that is for people, and that's okay. And as long as when I understood that, then it kind of like my purpose and why am I making art, and that I'm not for everyone, everything kind of like falls into place. And that's where I find my source of strength and my source of peace,
Mm.
and keeping my self-worth and my art in two separate places.
Mm. Now, two quick questions, I guess. One, anything you're watching now that's really enticing? And two, any story you want to tell but you haven't told yet?
Lately, I finally watched the Harry Potter series.
Nice.
I, when Harry Potter was popular, I was hustling, trying to eat more than a 39-cent taco every day. So I was trying to like, focus on surviving, and I didn't get a chance to like watch that. So it's interesting as an adult looking back and like, this is what everyone connected to. And it makes sense why they connected to it, because it happened as they were growing up. And these themes and experiences are very, you know, thematic. So I'm enjoying this reverse review of Harry Potter series. And then the art that I would like to create that I haven't had a chance to create yet. There's so much art I'm going to create until I die.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no one thing.
That's true. Yeah, no, I'm always doing something. Everything fascinates me, particularly in science too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I've been like doing like a lot of energy work, like Reiki and meditation. And that spiritual realm has really helped me heal from a lot of wounds I've had to deal with, and on this journey. And it's like, it's fascinating to tap into that realm. It's like, and it's brought me back, and just like I just picked up a brush and like flowing again. I get the energy. It's all about it. It's weird. It's hard to articulate. I was always one with logic, and this kind of still pairs with like quantum physics and like to the intangible, just invisible workings of the universe. It's just energy, and if you don't have it, it's like hard to produce anything. But once you get into a flow, it's weird. Like how things ebb and flow, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
um I don't know. It's just do you do any like I guess like energy work or spirituality stuff or um
Yes, I do, but I don't really talk on it too much.
that's true. Yeah. Oh,
But
I
I
mean, don't mean to intrude. I was just, to each their own, and particularly in the spiritual realm.
yes,
That's cool. Yeah.
I think that whatever inspires you and that energy flows where it goes where you direct it. And
Yeah.
I think that whatever connects you to your source, and what that source is for you, is very important, because that's the source of your creativity, the
Yeah.
source of your yeah, your creativity. And I
Yeah.
pull from that
And
constantly.
I guess I'll wrap with anything we should be on the lookout, commercial wise or music wise, or anything that's coming that you can talk about. Or I know you probably have stuff you can't talk about, but anything we
um,
should be on the lookout for.
I'm looking to move into the television space in the
Cool.
coming year. I've got a couple of really cool, inspiring series in development that I think will really resonate with a lot of people, especially right now. So
Cool.
I'm trying to make this coming year, 2023. You would see it in 2024.
Cool. Oh, that's amazing. I'm loving like the format now regarding like HBO Max or streaming formats, and in like the short form like series of like like 1 through 8 or 1 through 7, and that's it. Like I
Mm.
loved. Oh my God, it was only a mini series on HBO. James Gandolfini was slated to be the detective, but it was John Turturro who's the The night of was amazing. Detective, the night of. Have,
I haven't
there's,
seen it. I need to
oh,
watch
it's
it.
so good.
I'm gonna
Oh,
write
it's so
that
good.
down. The
The
night
night
of.
of. Oh, so on HBO Max,
Okay.
or HBO, yeah, and the night of. It's cinematically, and the visual, just the cinematography is amazing. The deep, just noirish kind of shadows, and it just, it's the
Ooh.
feel. It's detective, just a crime, kind of mini series, and it's just, oh, so good. But then, it's catching up on White Lotus too, which is amazing. I think. I was like, what is this noise about White Lotus? And I'm like, started with season one, and now it's just the subplots and the characters. It's just so. I'm like, working in a hotel. Yeah, this is about right.
Yeah.
This
Right.
is, and I
That's
just
how I
love.
imagine it being if you work in the cruise industry or the hotel and the hospitality industry.
Oh yeah, no, I'm like, this is spot on, and just I love the this all the different, sub stories, and the families and the characters, and the weirdness, and the ending in the, and just also like a Greek tragedy, just with death, But
Yeah.
I love how they shot it, on, and with the pacing of the music. I love that theme song too. I had to look up the theme song, and it's just, I love that theme song too. It's just, but that was just a random statement. Sorry.
No,
But
it's okay. Yeah, I like
uh
White Lotus for sure. I could go on and on about White Lotus.
yeah, yeah. It's just like, oh, it's
It
so
just makes
cool.
sense why everyone likes it so much.
No, I'm like, initially I was like, it's not for me. But when I dove into the series, I'm like, yeah, yeah, this is cool. It's a cool stylistically, and it's just storytelling, and it's just the
The
narrative, and
storytelling is so,
the
yeah, the
the
scenarios are
strategy of the
wild.
whole story arc with what's her name? It's it's fascinating.
Coolidge,
Yeah. Yeah,
Coolidge.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm terrible with names too. But anyways, I guess I don't want to keep any more of your time. I appreciate you speaking with me. Hopefully it was engaging.
Of course, very engaging. Thank you so much. Like you're easy to talk to.
Oh, thank you. Thank
We
you.
could go on and on.
Oh yeah, that's what I like try, I've had several guests, or people say like, oh, it's one of the best interviews, or like one person said that he did a podcast a few hours before me, and he had to cut the kid off at 17 minutes because he's asking the same generic questions. I'm like, I just keep it conversational, and I
Yeah.
always like just discussing any topic in general. So if it was like a mathematician, I would talk, like I just love speaking to interesting people. And that's how I've kind of kept my sanity in the last couple of years over pandemic, is through this
Yeah.
conversation series, and people have really enjoyed it. Organically, I've grown over almost 700,000 views,
Mm,
which is cool.
that's
Um,
awesome.
but now I just do want to go, like, my patience, like I need to create something else, because I'm like, when do I let this go, move on? But I do envision like printing the transcripts into a book or something like that,
Ooh,
you know,
I love
um,
that.
because I've spoken to, if you check out the archives, I'm up to 65 conversations. I've spoken to so many. It's been crazy, like legendary musicians, and fine artists, and just people. I'm like, yeah, there's people, but it was the one I like I said, I took like a 2 month hiatus, but the one I'm releasing Monday is Joey Ramone's brother, which is amazing because I love the Ramones, and he looked exactly like Joey Ramone, his brother. But
Oh,
I didn't talk about Joey. I talked about him and what he was working on, and I think said he was working with Netflix to make like a Ramones movie, and apparently Pete Davidson was going to play Joey Ramone. I can't see it, but I can't see it, but I don't know.
oh,
Well,
that sounds so cool.
hopefully, I know,
I'll have to
I
check it out.
hopefully I hopefully that was on record, because I have to edit this last part out, because I don't think it was hush hush. I think it was common knowledge, but uh yeah. So Anyways, I'll let you go. And yeah, no, hopefully, I, I'm zonking out. Sorry, it's like I said, it's January. I had so many conversations recorded in January and maybe early February. I didn't record all year, and this is the first new
Ah,
recording I've had.
well, I'm honored.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
well, enjoy your afternoon in LA, and it's freezing here in New York, and I'm jealous
Ooh,
of you LA folk.
I'm actually catching a flight to Florida very soon here. So
Well,
I'll be joining
also,
you on the East Coast.
well, in Florida, which actually I should just go visit my uncle down there in Bonita Springs. I'm like, I need some warmth. But
Now's the time.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jamie,
Thank
for
you.
your time, and looking forward to your new stuff, and I'll definitely be pushing it out on my end too.
Awesome. Thank you so much and have a beautiful day.
You as well.
All
Bye.
right.
Be well.
Bye.